Well, the details rolling out about the Secret Service and their failure to keep President Trump safe this past Saturday are continuously rolling out, and today I'm going to shed some light on some new details that have been shared that are honestly more shocking than anybody thought. The Secret Service is not shy about deflecting, and we're going to cover everything from sloped roofs to the fact the shooter could climb up onto the building with cops on the inside of it, all the way to the DEI hiring of Donald Trump's waistband protectors, essentially. We're going to cover it all, and of course, I'd love to hear your opinion after the video. Where do you think the biggest breakdown was, or maybe one of the points I make here? Which one surprises you the most, or is it a surprise? Of course, I want to hear your opinions because I know you probably have strong ones like a lot of us do. Let me know down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. Let's go and get into it. Now let's talk about those personal waistband and belly button protectors for President Trump, and that is the women we saw on the day of the assassination attempt trying to protect the 6'3" President Trump. Their job is to literally shield the president from taking a bullet. And again, unless the shooter happens to hit him in his knees or somewhere maybe a little higher, they were not able to do that job, amongst some other issues, including learning how to holster a gun. But I even know, hey, at 5'7", unless we're talking about like a Ted Cruz or a Marco Rubio, I probably shouldn't be protecting the president or body blocking the president at all. I know my limitations. It's what God gave me. It's what I got to work with. So protecting a 6'3" Trump, I shouldn't be body blocking for him. So there's that. But then the Secret Service comes out and says they are absolutely appalled that anybody would talk bad about their women agents when it's clear that they just are not fit to serve in that role. Maybe there's other roles. Maybe you get them behind a rifle and they're really good in that role. You know, I mean, World War II had its share of Russian snipers that were women, and they were incredible on the gun. But again, in that role, protecting the president, you got to have somebody out there that's at least as tall as him so they can do the job that they're supposed to. And you'll notice when Donald Trump came out at the RNC, he actually had some guys around him that were of equal or bigger stature. But it's more so the way they fulfill these roles, right? So if these women are like top shooters and, you know, again, they're tall enough to do the job they're supposed to do, they're like really good shots and they're qualified, that's one thing. But DEI basically forces these companies to hire a certain amount of people that are basically not white men. And they've done the same thing with one of the most important jobs in the world, which is protecting the president of the free world and former presidents. And Kimberly Cheadle, who is the director of the Secret Service, has even said as much.
To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030, and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious, as I sit in this chair now, of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce.
They want 30% more women by 2030. It's not qualified women. It's not, the top shooters in the world. It's not people that have, military experience and have done special operations and know what to look for. It's just simply, we need more women here just because. And that's a problem with all of these industries, from making airplanes at Boeing to anywhere else that practices DEI. And Anthony Bernal, who appointed Kimberly Cheadle, actually is like a big DEI proponent. And so, there's a whole mess when it comes to that side of it. But just the simple fact that they say they're appalled really means nothing, because, again, they've been pushing for this before this whole incident with President Trump. So that is part of the failure of the Secret Service. And then they're doubling down by saying that they cannot believe people are criticizing the decision to put 3 smaller females around a 6'3" President Trump. Now, in the last video, we talked about the perimeter and how the Secret Service obviously failed on this point, but they are responsible for that entire perimeter. No matter if they work with local law enforcement or, sheriff's office, whatever, if they work with them, they're going to appoint those divisions and PDs to say, hey, we need you to cover this building. We're going to cover this building. They should be talking to homeowners in the area. If you look from a bird's eye view, there's actually homeowners that were never even approached by anybody from Secret Service prior to this event.
But one of the most interesting things is she tells me that her lot is right next to where Trump was speaking, and the Secret Service never came to talk to her pre-rally. They never asked her about anything. They never were set up in her area. And then I asked her afterwards if the Secret Service or the FBI has spoken to her. They still have not spoken to her.
These people could have absolutely hated Trump and been set up ready to go, and they have no idea. Now, obviously, the building that is in question was supposed to be watched by local law enforcement. And from what I understand now, there was 2 individuals from a SWAT team on the inside of the building. And apparently they were watching out the windows. Some would call these spectators, because on a building that small, I can't possibly see a reason why you would need to be on the inside of the building. The perimeter, to me, would be on top of the building. That's where you're going to have your best vantage point. But they said that there was a safety concern because of the sloped roof. Now, there's been a very popular meme that's kind of been shared around over the past few days of a literal cow on a roof that has a bigger slope than what we've seen in that video. Like, seriously, a cow just walking on the roof. No fear, just up there chilling. And so this slope on the roof, not only could Crooks get up there, and he seemed pretty comfortable with it, but also the slope on the roof that the Secret Service were actually already on had a deeper and more steep slope than the building that the police officers were in. And by the way, roofers do this all the time on pitches that are way more intense than this. I know any roofers that watch this it's probably maddening to them to look at the pitch of this roof and, tell them that, there's no way that you can figure that out. Come on, man. The other issue is how Crooks was able to get up on top of this building in the first place. Now, from the original shots, it looks like there was a really long, probably an 8, 10, maybe even 12-foot ladder that was on the outside. So people are thinking, how did this guy get this ladder and an AR and a backpack, carrying a backpack, all this stuff, up to this building without anybody noticing? Come to find out, he actually had a 5-foot ladder that he had bought either early in the day or the previous day. And he was able to get on top of the building from an AC unit and then, I guess, climb his way up the rest of it with that ladder. But how was he able to get to the building in the first place? Well, part of that is answered because now we know that there was no local law enforcement or Secret Service on top of that roof. Now, local law enforcement is pointing fingers at Secret Service. Secret Service is pointing fingers at everybody else, trying to deflect. But when it comes down to it, it is the job of the Secret Service to not only set the perimeter, but also go down a checklist and make sure everything is done. All of these threats are handled and people are in position before President Trump even comes out. So let's just go ahead and make that clear. But local law enforcement said, hey, we have enough guys that we can provide traffic control for the event. Now, here's where it gets really sketchy, because local police said they sent an email to Secret Service a couple of days before saying that they would not be able to secure that building. That building was already known to Secret Service as being a potential threat. They're saying they pass it off to local PD. Local PD is saying they sent an email a couple of days before. They never got a response.
Several buildings were identified as areas of a concern, which it did include the AGR building. Indicated we did not have the manpower to take that task on as well, based on our number of officers on duty.
Butler Township Manager Tom Knights confirms that message was sent to the Secret Service 2 days before the Trump rally.
So while we have 2 or 3 guys inside that building, nobody was on the outside, and of course nobody was on the roof. My thing is, how does Crooks even know that building is going to be accessible? Well, an hour before, they spotted Crooks and said he was a suspicious person. So Secret Service knew about him an hour before Trump spoke. 20 minutes before, people see him on the roof. They also saw him with a rangefinder. So now he's getting the distance from where he is to where President Trump is going to be speaking. In the next 20 minutes, not only will a police officer be walking around the building, but also make contact with him. But Secret Service at this point knows that they have a suspicious person, so they are all aware of what's going on as far as there being somebody that they really need to watch. couple minutes before, people see him on top of the roof, once again with a gun, and then of course he starts opening fire right before people start running away once they realize that he's got a gun. Now, the snipers that were on the roof, if President Trump is looking out of the crowd, they would have been behind him and to the right. If you're looking at the stage, they would have been off to the left. Apparently, there was a tree that was actually blocking their vision from that roof. Now, the snipers that were to the right of President Trump, if you're looking at the stage, they did have a line of sight to the shooter. But at this point, it's too late, and of course, he fires off 3 initial rounds, the first one hitting Trump, and then he fires off 5 additional rounds. And of course, we know that, you know, he actually killed Corey Campatori, hope I'm saying that correctly, who was a retired firefighter, you know, and injured 2 additional people as well. So it's incredibly sad, and it is it's quite honestly a miracle Trump didn't get killed. It's honestly a miracle that he turned his head. Divine intervention. It really is just crazy, because some of these graphics that are being shown now, they're just even more intense when you see exactly the way Trump was looking and the line of sight and the travel of that bullet. He was basically right on. He was spot on. Trump just turned his head just enough. So as sad as the whole situation is, for 8 shots, at least 3 pretty well placed shots, and you had all those people there. I mean, there was 15,000 people, I think, that were scanned. Man, holy crap! It could have been a heck of a lot worse, of course, but it's still just a complete failure on the Secret Service all the way around. And the fact that they don't want to take any real responsibility for that is even more troubling, right? When you see, you know, there was a phone call with Kimberly Cheadle that, you know, 30 minutes in, the phone call just hangs up. There's senators on the line, and they're trying to get answers, and it just hangs up. And then they confront her at the RNC, and she has nothing. She won't give them the time of day. No time to answer any kind of questions. She says she also won't resign, which is this whole thing is really, really troubling. And here's the other thing: how did Crooks even know this building was going to be available? How did he? I mean, if I'm going to an event like this, unless you're scoping it out or you have some kind of inside information, how would you ever know that a building that basically has the perfect line of sight to the president will be that wide open? Now, is it possible that he saw them scoping this out? Maybe. I mean, he did have some research in some of the things that they're finding of when the Trump rally was, so maybe he had an idea of when Secret Service would be out there scoping it. I have no idea. It's just, it gets more sketchy. The waters are more muddy now than they were a few days ago, and with more information makes this thing look so much more suspicious. And I'm not somebody that buys into, you know, conspiracies and all of that kind of stuff. But man, there was such a failure here from the Secret Service, and all of these things that are being pieced together just makes it even worse. It's also now known that there was a credible threat that Iranians had an assassination plot planned against Trump as well. So this was known before the rally on Saturday, and nobody really knows if this 20-year-old kid was attached to that. Geez, that would be hard to believe, but I guess at this point anything's possible. But even knowing that, you would think that security would have been ramped up even more. You have trees that are blocked. You have the shooter being seen 20 minutes before on the roof with a rangefinder. They even knew about him an hour beforehand. You have police officers inside the building where he's at, not on the roof because of a freaking slope. A slope that's not even steep enough to keep a cow off of. Clearly DEI-infused Secret Service agents that did very little to protect Trump. And even as he's walking to the armored truck or the armored Suburban, you know, his head was clearly exposed. So if there happened to be another shooter at that time, it still could have been really bad. So there is so much, like, just really awful, sketchy things that have gone on with this entire thing. And again, it just gets muddier and muddier. The more you dig, And the more time that goes by, the more information that we get in, man, I really, it's unbelievable, to be quite honest with you. And absolutely zero responsibility being taken from anybody. And so I hope that independent investigations and, House and the Senate, and they're able to actually, do their investigations and, get some of these people on the stand to answer questions, because not only does President Trump need to know, not only does the family of Corey need to know, but also Americans need to know. We need to know that we can go to a rally, support the candidate that you want to support, and not be shot at, and have such a clear and negligent security protocol in place. There you go, man. There's what we know so far, and it is absolutely worse than probably what anybody was thinking. It just gets worse and worse, to be honest with you. Love to hear your opinion about this and any other details that you may want me to cover in a future video when it comes to this topic. Let me know. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold it down.